Hello and welcome to Contemplative Christianity. My name is Mark Tenenbaum, and for today's video, I want to discuss why the Euthyphro dilemma is a false dilemma. And before I explain why it's false, I want to first give a little bit of background information as to how the Euthyphro dilemma came about, as well as its implications for Christian theism. The Euthyphro dilemma was first expressed in Plato's dialogue Euthyphro in a conversation between Euthyphro and Socrates. In the dialogue, Socrates asks, "Is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious? Or is it pious because it is loved by the gods?" So put simply, does what is good and moral exist objectively outside of God? Or did God subjectively decide what is good and moral? And although the dilemma was meant to refer to the gods of the Greek pantheon, it has long been used against the grounding of objective moral values and duties within a monotheistic worldview. So what are the implications of the Euthyphro dilemma? Theists have long argued that theism is the only possible foundation for objective moral values and duties. That is to say, absent any sort of cosmic moral lawgiver, actions that you and I may regard as wrong, such as the Holocaust or the slaughter of children, may only seem wrong given our sociocultural context, but are not objectively wrong because they don't violate any divine commandments. From a naturalistic perspective, moral values and duties are useful fictions that have evolved to aid in the cohesion of social groups, but ultimately they are relative to particular cultures, societies, and individuals. Therefore, even if a naturalist's conscience provides them with a powerful intuition that some acts, such as the Holocaust or the slaughter of children, are truly and objectively wrong, unless the naturalist believes in some kind of non-theistic moral realism, and I plan on releasing a separate video that explains why non-theistic moral realism is an internally, logically incoherent concept, that unless they hold this kind of view, that they're forced to bite the bullet and recognize that morality is merely a sociocultural construct. Theists, on the other hand, argue that they have a worldview that is compatible with the existence of objective moral values and duties, which come about through the giving of divine commandments. The Euthyphro dilemma is meant to discredit that very idea by arguing that even if God exists, he does not provide a foundation of objective morality. If God chooses divine commandments because certain actions are objectively good outside of him, say in some kind of Platonic or immaterial sense, then God is not the true source of moral values and duties, and we as moral agents are free to simply skip the divine middleman and go straight to the source of objective morality. Conversely, if God issued his moral commandments based on actions that he subjectively found preferable, then even within a theistic worldview, morality is not objective, because God subjectively chose what is and isn't moral, and could have freely chose otherwise, and issued any number of different moral commandments. Christians conceive of God as a maximally perfect being, with attributes such as omnipotence, omniscience, omnibenevolence, metaphysical necessity or aseity, and a perfect sense of justice. And while God has free will, his actions are consistent with his perfect nature. So, for example, while I am free to go outside and clock somebody right in the jaw, that is not consistent with who I am as a person, so I won't do it. Therefore, when God issues moral commandments, those commandments are consistent with his perfect nature. God says, "Thou shalt not murder," because murder objectively runs contrary to his nature. God says, "Thou shalt not steal," or "Thou shalt not commit adultery," because those two run contrary to his nature. Is God free to issue commandments like "Thou should murder"? Sure, just like I'm free to run into the street and hit somebody. But a God who would make commandments that are not consistent with his nature is not a maximally perfect being, and thus is no longer the Christian conception of God. All of that is to say that the Euthyphro dilemma presents a false dichotomy, which Christian theists can freely reject and instead opt for a third option. God's divine moral commandments are good not because objective morality exists outside of God, or because he subjectively chooses what is and isn't moral. Rather, God's commandments are good because God is good, and his commandments are a necessary reflection of his perfect nature. Now, this video was not meant to address whether God exists, whether he holds the attributes of a morally perfect being, whether objective moral values and duties exist, or whether there could be a source for them outside of God. I am not trying to address those in this video. All I'm trying to demonstrate is that the Christian God can serve as an objective foundation of moral values and duties, and the Euthyphro dilemma's attempt to undercut this falls short. With that said, thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like or a comment. And if you want to see more content, we'd love for you to subscribe. Thank you.